Dale Wilcox from the immigration. He's with. Oh my gosh, I'm like spacing the actual organization that he's with. Dale, welcome to the program. Tell us what your organization is again. Remind us, because I'm forgetting it.
Rebecca, the Immigration Reform Law Institute.
Exactly, and I love your organization. I'm so flabbergasted by this plan, this proposal. Just a little bit shocked by it. But I want you to tell us, give us your opinion, Dale. How do you view this in light of past amnesties? What do you see?
Like you, I'm in a bit of sticker shock. We were expecting maybe Trump to put forward amnesty for 690,000 DACA recipients, and he's more than doubled that, 1.8 million. This is not how I was taught to negotiate in law school. I've never read Art of the Deal, but I'm not sure this is how you negotiate. You don't give your bottom line. I mean, this is where they're starting, 1.8 million. Where are they going to go from there? The Migration Policy Institute says potentially there's 3.5 million DACA eligible people out there.
Can I just jump in on this? Dale, I want to just weigh in there and agree with you. I studied negotiation at law school. I've written about negotiation, and I agree with you. This was not a good way to start. And the number one rule in negotiating is do not bid against yourself. If you're buying a house and you say, I want to pay $100,000 for this house, and the offer is rejected, you don't come back and say, all right, $200,000. You don't do that, because then the other side just knows they can ratchet it up. And lo and behold, what just happened? Trump took the 800,000 or 700,000 DACA beneficiaries. That was the anchor, right? That's the number everyone was talking about. And he said 1.8 million dreamers. So the Democrats just pocketed that concession. You can look at Breitbart. I've got this piece up about Dick Durbin rejecting the deal, but pocketing that concession, saying, yeah, okay, we'll take 1.8 million dreamers on a path to citizenship. That's great. We're glad Trump sees the wisdom of that. But by the way, the rest of the deal is totally unacceptable to us. We're not taking it. He's bid against himself. It's a basic mistake. What happened here?
Well, I think they are being ruled by the clock, this February 8th date. And what they're doing is they're putting forward their best and final offer, and that's it. But that's not how things work in the legislature. There are compromises to be made along the way, and they've left themselves no room to negotiate. It makes no sense to me. It would have been a hard enough sell to my base to accept any amnesty at all, 690,000 DACA recipients. But more than double that, that's a huge ask, and one of the largest amnesties in the history of the United States. And as we saw with the 1986 amnesty, at that time they had only estimated over 1 million people would come forward there, and close to 3 million actually signed up. So we're really been sold down the river here.
Now, Tom Cotton, who's a hardliner, sorry, Rebecca, Tom Cotton has been broadly responsible for holding the line. He has generally supported the terms of this deal. His statement today, the president's framework is generous and humane while also being responsible. And he basically says this is the last offer. As you say, their bottom line, they're not going to go beyond this, according to what he says. But he's also admitted now on Twitter, apparently, that 1.8 million is the best estimate of DACA-eligible persons using existing criteria. But there might be more numbers. He's responding to a tweet by Eric Erickson, who said that the ceiling could even be 3 million. So we don't know. And the problem here, Rebecca and Dale, again, comes down to negotiating. He has accepted the idea that people who didn't even apply for DACA status, who didn't take advantage of the legal methods available to them to defer deportation, they should also be eligible. They didn't get their act together and apply and put the documents together. They should also get to stay in the country and become citizens. Very strange.
Not only that, they're moving the date at which you could have entered the country. So that even adds more people. So
wait.
I think the original DACA date was 2007, and I believe they're moving it to something like 2011. or 2012. So they're being even more inclusive.
Now, explain that to me, because the date, from what I understood, maybe I'm wrong here, you had to have been born like after June 15th, 1981 or something to be a DACA eligible. So what does that mean that they've changed the date to 2011? What does that mean?
I believe it has to do with when you arrived into you had to be in the country before a certain date. And,
okay.
DACA applies to those individuals. So they've included the original allotment of DACA. They've included, as Joel mentioned, the people who did not come out of the shadows and did not take advantage of the DACA program. And then also they've messed with the date. So we get to 1.8 million, and of course that's just an estimate.
Now, what's to say? I'm sorry. Go. I was just going to.
I was just going to say, as Joel had mentioned, Cotton has come out in favor of this proposal. McConnell has issued a press release tonight. Grassley and Perdue, all the immigration hawks. However, the opposition knows how to negotiate. They're playing hardball. An open borders group, United We Dream. I guess the lead DACA representatives there said they've issued a press release too, and they said we're not going to. They've called this deal a white supremacist ransom note. So
can I just jump in there? I want to just add to that point. United We Dream. These are the people organizing all of the activists who do the mock funerals, who invade congressional offices, who shout the F word at members of Congress. These are the DACA activists we saw parading around on Capitol Hill earlier this week, if I'm not mistaken. And Rebecca, you mentioned one of my pieces on Breitbart. I just wrote a piece. The DACA kids have changed my mind on amnesty. Dale, I think that I'm probably like many people who voted for Trump, that I am willing to accept some kind of a deal that's reasonable. But the behavior of the people who are pushing for this deal, the DACA activists, they're not acting like Americans. They're acting like entitled brats. They're not advocating for a point of view. They're bullying members of Congress. They're completely rejecting democracy. I mean, why would we want people in the country as citizens who show no respect at all for our civic process? I think that Trump missed an opportunity here to lay down the line, and he's given in to these tactics, and they're just going to ramp them up.
You're absolutely right. But their end, as Rebecca, as we've discussed before, it won't stop here. This is an arbitrary line. I mean, as you stated, 1982. So people born, why then not people born before 1982? Where it's not. They're not going to stop here. And in fact, their shenanigans lately, their signs that they've been up on the Hill with, have stated, F deportations. So their bottom line, their red line is, we want it all. And they showed that when they attacked, Pelosi out in California at one of her town halls, and they said 11 million or none of us. So that's the bottom line here.
I can only imagine them making the argument that, what about the poor people that were born on June 14th instead of June 15th, 1981. Why can't they be allowed in? Because it's just an arbitrary date. And the thing that I wanted to ask you about also is once we put them on the path to citizenship, if they're granted this amnesty, that stays. I mean, Congress can't reverse that. They can't take away their right to citizenship or their citizenship. But chain migration in this deal, supposedly this deal ends chain migration except for, your spouses and your children, minor children or something. That could be loosened up by a future Congress. A future Congress could pass a bill, Family Reunited Act or something, and reverse any deal on chain migration. But the citizenship, granting of amnesty, that'll stay forever. Am I right on that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Try to take that away, and you would have due process lawsuits all over the country. Know this about these proposals that the White House put out today, that chain migration is not ended immediately. So the White House is allowing the backlog, and the backlog consists of 4 million people in the pipeline who are waiting on their number to come up. The White House is this is only prospective. The White House is allowing all those people to immigrate into the United States. As we know, 70% of all of our immigration is a result of chain migration. So at minimum, 3 million of that 4 million are a result of chain migration. They will be allowed to immigrate still to the United States. It's only as of the date this legislation would be signed forward, no one would be able to bring in family members that are not spouse or minor children.
Now, let me ask you this also. They're saying that they're going to have a funding for a wall that will be built within 10 years. And hopefully they're going to get the funding up front so that they're not dependent on a future Congress to allot the funding, which has been the mistake in past amnesties.
They're calling it a trust fund, Rebecca, a $25 billion trust fund. I guess that means the money would be placed in trust and it would not be canceled or used for some other purpose. I guess their idea is to insulate it from future changes in power. I'm just reading the document, the framework that was released by somebody who leaked this plan.
Gotcha. Now, so that it would take a certain amount of time for the wall to go up, and in the meantime, this announcement of amnesty invites further illegal immigration. Am I correct in this, or am I understanding this incorrectly?
Oh no, you're absolutely right. And one thing that disappoints me is the administration has conceded E-Verify. And
yes,
I've always
thank
said,
you.
Institute E-Verify, and then you reduce the jobs magnet. People are not going to come here if they can't work. I mean, that's obvious. So, okay, so they included money for a wall. That's great. The wall will deter and will significantly reduce illegal immigration. However, 40% of our illegal immigration problem in this country is a result of visa overstays, people flying in as tourists or students and never going home. So what does the wall do for that? What does getting rid of chain migration do for that? Nothing. I mean, E-Verify is a must.
You know what? I am so glad that you brought this up, because I've been hammering this all week long, that E-Verify was taken off the table, wasn't mentioned as a must-have. That, to me, was the biggest tell that we were going to get screwed on this deal. Because, as you said, nearly half of the people that are in this country illegally are visa overstays. And it is the jobs that are the magnet. And this is something that we can institute right away with E-Verify. I mean, it is right away. And the thing that I'm hearing is pushback from this is the employers, the big corporations, they do not want this because they know it will work. That is what Rosemary Jenks from Numbers USA told us, that Congress doesn't want E-Verify because they know it will work, and their donors don't want it, and the Open Borders lobby doesn't want it. What is going on there? Why isn't E-Verify the top of the list on these things of must-haves? Because it's one thing that will give us tangible results, measurable results right away.
You're exactly right in your what Rosemary stated. It's sadly the business lobby, the ag lobby, does not want E-Verify, and that part of deals have been made to even get this far. That we'll ditch E-Verify. It's unbelievable. Some of even the visa lottery, the White House proposal gets rid of the visa lottery. What they've done is they've eliminated the lottery, but they've allocated the visas to reduce the family-based backlog. The 4 million I was talking about. So
yes,
those are going to be applied to the backlog and high-skilled employment backlog. So we're bringing in more people to compete with American jobs. For American jobs. So I just don't get it. Yeah.
Let me ask you something, Dale, before we have to let you go, and we have a board full of callers, people who want to have their say. Did the Trump supporters get anything out of this proposal? Is there anything that Trump is delivering on here, or is it all a giveaway?
No, I mean, there are some good measures here. Certainly the wall will make a difference. We've seen that when San Diego in 86, 1/3 of all apprehensions in the country, 600,000 that year, came through the San Diego sector, and they built a wall in '91, and then shortly after that, it was only like 26,000 a year coming through there. So walls make a difference. So, Trump, different than what we had heard earlier in the week from mainstream media that Trump was wavering on the wall. The wall is a big part of this, and funding for the wall, and the money would be put in a trust fund, which is important. It's not just a promise to, address it later and fund it later. So it is a trust fund. So that is something. Getting rid of chain migration, that is important because, as I stated, 70% of all of our immigration to the U.S. is based on chain migration and not American interests, our needs, merit-based, skill-based. So that's good. And, of course, we know the visa lottery was a joke, and we've let in terrorists recently through that program. So it did deep six that program, although, as I stated, they've shifted those numbers over into other visa categories. I mean, Trump has the four pillars are here that he's always mentioned. It's just, as Rebecca said, the devil is in the details, and I'm a little let down, to say the least, in the details.
Dale, one final question. You had mentioned past amnesties and that this is one of the largest amnesties we would ever be granting if we stick to that 1.8 million figure. Can you talk to us? What was the figure for the 1986 amnesty during President Reagan's administration? And can you also tell us, and I've been hammering this point all week, about where the majority of the people who received that amnesty in 1986 resided? I believe it was in the great state of California. Can you fact check me on that and tell us what was the figure from the 1986 amnesty?
The final figure, they believe, they're not absolutely sure, but the number I've seen ranges from 2.6 to 2.9. 2.9 is the number that's more widely used. So in the end, we ended up with 2.9 million, and at that time they had only estimated, I think, 1.5 or something like that. Illegal aliens were in the country. So you're sure to get many more step forward for this current amnesty than what's being portrayed.
And am I correct?
Where
California,
they resided? Yeah, yes. California. Yeah, yep. California has the lion's share and always has.
And you know what? Just as I like to remind people, California was once a pretty reliable, fairly reliable Republican state, and now you cannot elect a dog catcher in California. So the GOP is signing its death warrant, essentially, in doing this. Dale, I want to thank you for coming on the show this evening and sharing your thoughts, and we hope to always hear from you more on the show because you break it down for us, all the details. Thank you for coming on the program.